Sorry about the interruption from last video. So we are here. We got the random index. So now we need to get a URL. If you recall from the help screen, in order to play the sound, we needed to have an audio player. We needed to have the file URL, and then we load the file into the player and say play. We got the file URL in the help screen from the name. The name of the file was on the button, and then we use the name of the file to load the URL directly. In this case, the URL is already loaded in that array of nodes, and we're going to use the random index to pick one of them at random. So now that we have a URL, we can then load the player and say play. So we have to first create the player, which will require us to import the new framework like we did with the help screen. To add the player, which is an AV audio player, we needed to import the AV foundation. So we'll do the same. Import AV foundation, and then add the player. So we use var because we're gonna change that value, and I'm gonna call it player, which is an AV audio player, and I will not initialize it at this time. So then after we get the random index, get a random index, we get the a URL for a node. So we'll use the nodes array. So we'll say let file URL equal, and then we get the nodes, and we ask the nodes to give us one of the objects. So we use the object at the random index. Note though that any here the object returns a generic type, so we will need to cast that into a URL type. So we'll say that the type here we'll use the random index, and we'll cast that as an NS URL. Then we initialize the player. So we'll say player equal, and then remember we have to use try because initializing the AV audio player throws an error. We'll use the content of URL and then pass the file URL, and then play the sound. So we'll say player and play. So we'll see what's happening here. So the content of URL, I see, I think I know, it's a part of me from the old time. The initializer uses URL, not NS URL, so let's cast that into a URL, and you say file URL. That should work. Yep, that should work. Oh, I don't think I need that. So that should be, let's see what's here. Cast from URL to unrelated, and so they always fail. Let's do this. So this is converting from this array to a URL. We can initialize into an array, or I may not need the array at all. Let's see how this would work first. Started the game. Oh, so nothing happened because now we need to tell when you started the game to play a random note. So let's go again. So it played the note, you click. So how do I know that it is actually playing random notes, not playing the same note over and over again? We can log the URL that's being played, or we can put a breakpoint. So if we are to log this, log the URL, you can use the nslog, which requires a string and an argument. So we can say file URL, and we can return a string for that URL. So we'll say we have a string, and in this case we don't need the rest of the stuff here. Let's see. So this should print the string that represents the URL in our output screen. So here it is. So it played the D sharp, and the second one it was the F sharp, and then there's D, A, D. So you can see it is going through different notes and displaying those different notes. So that's this first part, implementing playing random sound. And we got that working, so the next part is to evaluate the user answer, and we'll do that in the next video.